let the record show that it is 6:02, and we'll call to order the regular July 9th, 2019 council meeting for the city of Durant. Let's all please stand while Chief Jones gives our invocation, and remain standing while our city manager leads us in the flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Morris,
Here.
Councilmember Shear,
Here.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Here.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Here.
Mayor Kuby.
Here. We have a majority, a quorum. We're all here tonight. Our first order of business is kind of a fun part. We're going to present presentation of the Employee Service Awards for the second quarter of 2019. And carrying on the tradition that I don't know if Councilman Tomlinson started, but we're going to all go down front. So if everybody will join me down front, please.
Tom, you coming?
I hope. Can everybody hear me? Okay, we have a combined total of 55 years of dedicated service to the city of Durant. And our first 5 years is Chris Coda. Is Chris here tonight? Chris is from the Durant Multi-Sport Complex. He has a certificate pin of $50. Would you please come forward and get your money? Thank you. Thank you for your service. Mom will come up. Our next 5-year pin goes to Ryan Jones from the street department. Is Ryan here? James, you want to come up and get his $50 pin, or his pin and $50 check, and make sure he gets it? Thank you, James. We're now moving to 10 years. We have one 10-year recipient, Miles Gooding, Police Department. He will be receiving a certificate and a pen and $100. Chief, you sure do pick up a lot of them.
It's a plan.
Thank you.
Retirement plan.
one 15-year, Marie Goolsby, our IT lady, Marie. She gets a certificate, a pen, and $150. Turn around and get that picture made. Thank you. Last but not least, a 20 years Philip Hightower from our water treatment plant. He gets a certificate, a pen, and a check for $200. Thank you, Philip. Congratulations to all these employees, and we'd like to thank all of our employees for the work that they do for the city of Durant. Thank you. Moving right along, number two on our agenda is our consent items. And as all of you know, consent items are help to streamline the process, and we can focus on the items that we really need to talk about. So under the consent items, these are items that can be approved in total. We have items A through I, or they can be pulled out if someone wishes to pull one out for discussion. Does anyone wish to pull out an item for discussion? If not, can we have a motion that we accept the consent items?
Move approval of the consent docket.
We have a motion, and Steve, did you?
Second.
We have a second. Would the clerk record the vote, please?
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye. Motion passes. There were no items considered for number 3, no consent items removed. We'll move to item 4 under our information items. If there are any items we need to pull out, and number C, Community Development Monthly Report, is going to include a requested information regarding outdoor seating downtown.
Good evening. You all requested some information regarding outdoor seating downtown primarily. So what I did is I looked at the ADA regulations as well as the ABLE commissions, which ADA is a federal guidelines that we have to follow, and ABLE is the state act as far as the alcohol and things like that. So what I found on those is that whenever the primary issues that we have, other than some of the sidewalks that we'll see here in just a little bit, but with the ABLE commission, you have to have on-premise and then off-premise. And the way that we interpreted the on-premise is that essentially it would be included within the property boundaries, where our sidewalks are considered public. So that wouldn't be considered to be on-premise. So they'd have to go for an off-premise permit as well as an on-premise for Able Commission to be able to have outdoor seating and serve alcohol outside. For the ADA, you have to have at least a minimum of a 4-foot sidewalk, but then even whenever you have outdoor seating, you have to have access to those seating areas as well as in the restaurant. So that's the two big factors that we had that were kind of hindering for outdoor seating. Some of the others that we see is you see where there's not a whole lot of space on the sidewalks. We either have the ADA things that we have in place as far as the ramps and things like that leading up to the downtown, or the ramps going into stores. That causes an issue as far as taking away sidewalk space. Or just in general, we have sidewalks that have decorations and things like that that hinder being able to put outdoor seating on there as well. There was some areas like the Opera House and a couple other areas that had outdoor seating that you could see where there's some wider areas. But with the features that we have in place, it's a little difficult to have outdoor seating with the current sidewalks that we have. What I did find was that there was some areas that had kind of, their storefronts were kind of deep set back to where you could get a couple tables in there if it so choose. But this particular one may have an issue with Able, depending on how Able saw that outdoor area as being on-premise or off-premise. And then we have, of course, the area right here where you can probably add some picnic tables or things like that, primarily for outdoor events or something if we wanted to use those. So those are a couple areas of potential that we could add to the seating that we have. So if you have any questions or anything like that, I'd be happy to answer them.
Anybody have any questions?
Can the city do anything to circumvent the Able laws?
No, we cannot.
No.
No.
I don't think that last picture, do we refer to that as Pocket Park? And that's city property, so there would probably be some considerations there as far as if somebody did want to utilize that, the city would have to, there'd probably be some hoops to jump through. Okay.
Yes.
If we didn't serve alcohol outside, would that make a difference?
It would. If you don't have alcohol outside, no restaurant that's tied, that has an able license that serves alcohol, then you probably could have some more in certain areas, but we still have the ADA where we have to make sure that they're able to access the area and they're able to still get by them with a wheelchair and things like that.
What would we need to do to maybe, I don't want to rush you, but to maybe know next month what we can do and which ones we could do? Would that be possible? Tim?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some potential in a few of those areas in those pictures. If you roll back a little bit, Byron, I think possibly some of those sidewalks we may be able to meet, but I think there's some planters and some other things. Keep going right there. I think some issues, you may be able to fit some small, but we could go out and do that. But the way it's set up right now, probably not, just because of the way the planters are set up in front. So, I mean,
Unless they wanted to move them.
yeah,
Is that Roma's?
I believe
Yes.
that is, yeah,
Yes,
the one in
that's
front of
Roma's.
Roma's. So we could come back and look at some of those areas. And, I mean, I don't know if we would necessarily have to take any action as long as they met the sidewalk width for the ADA requirements.
Correct.
I don't think it's necessarily, there's no action I don't believe we can take that will circumvent the ADA laws, or of course the ABLE laws either. I think it's just going to be a matter of working with the downtown merchants and the Main Street, Grant Main Street, and maybe see if we can, get a little bit more creative with some of the areas to have access to some of that.
Would that be something you would do?
I definitely could, yes. And-
You're new on the job, and we want to put you out there right away.
Yes.
Bethany has where she came from, they also have a downtown area, very similar to ours, and so she's used to working with merchants.
Yep, very much so.
I-
And I'm sorry, just so that you guys know, there is going to be a walkability study completed in the next few months. I believe in September, I believe is the target date. So that's something else that you guys will probably be involved with as well. So, That'll be helpful. Sorry, Tom.
I think Councilman Shure had a good question about, how much the city is subject to Able Commission plus, ADA requirements, and we are. And I kind of looked at this a little bit too, and when you start adding up the footage, you get a side of a building, you get a 32-inch table, you have to have a certain amount of space for the wait staff to walk around the table, and that can't encroach on the ADA 4-foot requirement. And then most of our parking spaces don't have parking stops, and so by the time a front wheel hits the curb, you've got a foot or 18 inches of encroachment by car bumpers, which cut into your 4 feet. So, you almost have to have a 9 or 10 foot wide sidewalk minimum to get a small table with a chair on either side. If you have a chair with, on the street side of the table, now you're 6 feet wide probably before you ever get to your server space, because you have the table and the chair and the person, and then you got to have a 10 or 12 foot sidewalk then to get the the right footage, and we just don't have very many of those.
Right, that's correct. And most larger
And
cities
if
do
you
have.
and if you serve alcohol, you have to have even more, because you have to have a barrier for the table, the customers, and the wait staff to all work inside of, and then you get to your ADA requirement in your cars and everything else. So you really have to have some pretty wide sidewalks to get there, or be willing to do some things extraordinary, temporary street closures where you use other spaces like parking spaces as outdoor seating areas on certain nights, or something like that. But just sidewalks, you have to have some pretty wide sidewalks to get there, and we just don't have very many of those.
The one thing that I had in mind, or that people have mentioned, is sort of like down at Caked Up, which they're the real small little tables, and in front of the Opera Coffee House. And I think in some situations it's better to get forgiveness than permission, maybe. But would something like that, would we still need to do research? There wouldn't be that many, because we actually don't have that many restaurants and stuff downtown.
Correct.
We could come back, and staff could go out to each one of these facilities and measure them out, just to kind of see what we need. But again, just looking at Rome, as like I said, you'd have to definitely remove the planters, and the tables would have to be very small.
And
So,
he may rather have the planters than the tables.
yeah.
Who knows? But
Right.
anyway, is this something that no action? Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank
And
you.
we also have Roger Joins from the fire department, wants to make a real quick introduction.
Come on, Roger.
I'd like to introduce the city's new deputy fire chief. It's going to be Jeff Langford. Jeff Langford's, Jeff has 21 years with the fire department, and he's got his wife of 28 years and 4 children and 5 grandchildren. So we're going to have him a while. He's not going anywhere. So, but he's got a really extensive training background. I think he will be great for the job, and he'll continue to make Durant a safer place. So for the firemen and for the citizens. So we're glad to have him.
Thank you, Roger. Welcome aboard. If no one has any questions about any of the other information items, we'll move on to number 5, administration. Number A, consider, discuss, and approve collective bargaining agreement fiscal year 2019 through 20 between the City of Durant and IAFF Local 3061, or take any other appropriate action.
Mayor and council, before you tonight is the IFF 1920 collective bargaining agreement between the City of Durant and Local 3061. As you can see throughout the attachment that Mr. Buckley, former Assistant City Manager Buckley, had put. By the way, he's in California. He left here on Friday and went to California, so I hope he's okay. And he went to Disneyland. So anyway, I wanted mention that the two key changes in there, the wage table, it's going to be adjusted with the 1.5% COLA if they're eligible, and the promotion policy will remain open and continue negotiations during the promotional policies. So if you have any other questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them.
Does anyone have any questions?
Move we follow the city manager's recommendation and approve the IAFF Local 3061 agreement with the city.
Is there a second? We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? If not, then would the clerk record the vote, please?
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye. Motion passes. Number B, consider approval of resolution number 2019-19 establishing the Durant Senior Citizens Advisory Committee for the city of Durant.
Mayor, and council, tonight before you is resolution number 2019-19, establishing the Durant Citizens Advisory Committee based upon the June 11th vote when you authorized myself and staff to move forward with identifying the guidelines and the participating committee members. We have outlined it in the resolution. It's pretty simple and set forth there. It's a 7-person advisory board, and that's what it is. It's an advisory board only. There's no administrative functions. The first 3 members will terminate their office in 2 years. The other 4 will terminate in 2022. So we can rotate some new folks on there. I'd be glad to answer any questions. Of course, this is in conjunction with the purchase of our new senior center. I'd like to see us, and I put that date in September because I think that's pretty much a realistic date when we'll have people come forth and apply for the positions for the vacancies on those. But we will have, I'd like to have the meetings held at the Ron Cross Activity Senior Center on Chuckwall, at least, 1 meeting every 2 months. Of course, they can meet if they'd like to, but I'd be glad to answer any questions at this time.
You said they would need to apply between now and September. People, will there be a website or?
Yes, we'll have, we can have a contact information for them and bring forth.
Okay.
I'd like to bring all, if we have 7 folks that are, we've had quite a bit of interest in folks that are wanting to serve on this advisory committee, and we'd be moving forward and bringing those to you for your approval.
Thank you, Tim. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to say, or what are your wishes, guys? Do we have a motion?
Move approval of resolution 2019-19.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second that.
Second. Is there any discussion? Would the clerk record the vote, please?
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye. Motion carries. Number C, approval of agreement with Arledge and Associates, PC for fiscal year 18-19 annual auditing service and single audit. Miss Judy.
This one here is, state laws require that the city have an annual audit. It also requires that we engage an auditor within 30 days of the end of the fiscal year. This here is the 2nd year commitment that we had with them on a new contract or agreement is actually what it is on it. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. Single audit is required when you get grant funds. And if you noticed in there, the agreement, the DEQ, that has to do with our landfill and the city's ability to fund the closure of it if it should ever occur. And the auditors are required to send the report in to the DEQ on our behalf as to the funding ability. Is there any questions?
I believe this was a 3-year contract that they did last year, and they give us a special discount rate for doing the 3-year contract, and this is the second
This
year, is that
second year.
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you,
Move approval
Judy.
of the agreement with Arledge and Associates for fiscal year 18-19.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? If not, would the clerk record the vote, please?
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye, motion carries. Number D, consider approval of request from Durant Industrial Authority for reimbursement from Economic Development Sales Tax Fund 110 for cost of assisting Tubasex Durant in establishing tax increment financing District Number 3 for project development cost. Paul?
The Industrial Authority did approve this request yesterday unanimously and request the reimbursement of the legal costs for the creation of the TIF district that provides financing for the Tubasex Durant project.
I would like to point out that this money will come from Fund 110, which is the DIA's money. Is that correct?
Yes, it is
Okay.
for economic development, yes.
Okay. Just
Paul,
wanted,
that's the one funded from the quarter-cent sales tax,
Yes,
right?
it is.
Thank you.
does anybody have any questions for Mr. Bunce? Or do we have a motion?
I make a
Motion.
Oops.
Go ahead.
I make a motion, we approve.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Second. We have a motion and we have a second. Could the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, Paul. Number E, consider approval of contract number 2019-36 and award of bid for Overland Corporation in the amount of $446.70 for the Larkspur Lane Extension contingent approval of a change order number 1. Mr. Marty Cook.
Yes, ma'am. We've been working on this Larkspur extension for some 13 years now, I think. We're finally about ready to break ground on the actual construction piece. It's already been engineered. This is a budgeted project that we have had on the rolls for a couple years, and we finally got to the bid process. We are asking you to approve this contingent, the change order, and the very next item is the change order. We're going to be saving about $60,000 by renegotiating and taking over some of the work. That gets us back within the kind of the budget area that we wanted to be in to do this project. This is something we need to take care of because the longer we wait, the more expensive it gets. And it's still a deal we made, some 13 years ago. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Cook?
Move
Do we-
approval of contract 2019-36.
We have a motion for approval. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson. Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye, motion carries.
And number 2 on that part.
Part 2, consider approval of change order number 1 to reduce the overall cost of this project from $645,446.70 down to $585,015.70 as part of contract number 2019-36.
Move approval, change order number 1.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion? We might say this is making it a little cheaper. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye, motion carries. Number F, and Miss Becker. And we didn't ask, we're gonna have to ask.
There was a question asked, Becca, do we have to do these individually? Can they all be considered in one motion?
Well, since I listed them individually, Tom, I don't think that Commerce necessarily cares.
These are just closeout, right?
Well, no, it's
Oh,
for the
oh, this is
Tubasex
Tubasex,
grant
I'm sorry.
application. I mean, not the grant, the grant award.
Grant award.
Since you have a resolution on number 3 and an ordinance on number 4, those two probably at least need to be done individually, so, the others could probably be, 1, 2, and 5 could probably be done as a group, but I think 3 and 4 need to be done individually.
I don't know if I got that, but I'll find out.
Just for
Num-
information purposes, if I may, Mayor, so the public knows, all these documents are related to the Tubasex grant award that the council accepted on June the 17th, and they're just a format or formal documents that we have to have in place in order to achieve release of funds.
Okay, I'll read number F.
Okay.
Which it's 2018 Community Development Block Grant, Economic Development Infrastructure Finance Grant Award 17488 CDBG-ED 18 in the amount of $939,366 for water and wastewater infrastructure improvements. C-2019-32, benefiting Tubasex Durant, Inc., facility to create new jobs at 362 Country Club Road. Now, Ms. Becca.
Okay. The company has committed to create 126 jobs within the 3-year timeframe of the grant, which I actually think they've committed that they'll be created quite a bit sooner than the 3 years. So, if we're going to do them individually, do you want to read number 1, the first document?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, number 1, consideration to approve the residential anti-displacement and relocation assistance plan relating to the Community Development Block Grant Economic Development Infrastructure Finance CDBG-ED Award 17488 CDBG-ED 18.
That's a mouthful. This is a plan that states if this project were to cause any residents to be relocated, that the city would implement the plan according to Department of Commerce's guidelines. However, this project does not or will not affect any residents, but it is a plan that has to be in place.
Okay, and this is one we'd have to vote on.
Yeah, you can actually do 1, 2, and 5 together.
Okay. We can do 1, 2, and 5 together. So, do we have a motion that we approve 1, 2, and 5 together?
Do we need to, for the record, read 2 and 5, or no?
Do-
I don't know.
I don't think so, as long as the motion is to approve 5F, 1, 2, and 5, I think that's sufficient.
Motion for 5F, 1, 2, and 5.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham.
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye. Motion carries. And I
Move approval of 5F3, Resolution 2019-20.
Okay. That one was one we were gonna have to do separate, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second that.
We have a motion and a second for item number 3, resolution number 2019-20. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham.
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye. Motion carries. And we're down to 4.
Move approval of ordinance 1833, which is 5F4, sections 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, just 1 and 2.
I'm sorry, 1 and 2.
Do we have a we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Oh, we've already done that.
I thought we did. I thought we were gonna do 3 and 4. Was those the two?
I think
we
you
did?
just said 1 and 2, you meant number 4.
It's parts.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion? No discussion? Then, would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye. Motion
Thank you.
carries. Thank you, Becca.
Madam Mayor, there'll need to be an additional motion for section 3 of that ordinance if there's an emergency clause.
Motion to approve section 3 of ordinance
Okay, thank you.
1883.
Motion 3, there's a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion? If no discussion, would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye, motion carries. This leads us to number 6, public hearing. We will now go into the public hearing session. City Manager Tim Rundell and Councilmember Mike Morris will be recusing themselves from the hearing. Number A, under public hearing, consideration PC 2019-10, ordinance 1881, rezoning request at 724 West Texas from R3 to C3. The public session is open, so would anyone like to speak?
Sure. Good evening. Yes, this is just a rezoning that was approved by the Planning Commission, and it was unanimously approved. There have not been any opposition to this. Essentially, it's just cleaning up some zoning on a property, making it all commercial. Some replatting that was done as well, so they can continue with the sale of the property. So essentially why we're here. So if you have any questions of me, then I'd be happy to answer them.
Does anyone have any questions? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Anyone else who wishes to speak? Anyone else? Then we will close the public hearing. Excuse me. We'll get to you. You jumped the gun just a little bit. Okay, the public hearing is now closed, and we will take a vote.
Mayor, I serve on the board of directors of the organization requesting this. I'm going to recuse myself from voting on this.
Councilman Morris is recusing himself because he serves on the board of this ordinance or this rezoning request. Do I have a motion?
Motion for section 1 of ordinance 1881.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Morris has recused himself. Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye. Motion carries.
Move approval of section 2 of ordinance 1883.
Is that with the emergency clause?
Yes.
Okay, we need a second.
Second.
Okay. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Morris has recused himself. Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmembers Tomlinson,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye. Motion carries. The last item is number 7, our citizens' comments on non-agenda items. And okay, and there is none on that particular item. You're not ready yet. Okay, that there are no citizen comments listed for non-agenda items. Is there any new business? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn out of the Durant City Council?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye. We are now adjourned out of the city council. We are re-adjourned, and let the record show that it is 6:45, and we will call to order the regular July 9th council or Durant City Utilities Authority. Would the secretary call the roll, please?
Trustee Morris,
Here.
Trustee Shear,
Here.
Trustee Tomlinson,
Here.
Vice Chairman Brittingham,
Here.
Chairman Groby.
Here, we have a quorum. Under consent items, are there any consent items that anyone would wish to pull out of consent? If there are no items wishing to be pulled out of consent, can we have a motion to approve the number 1 consent items?
Motion to approve consent items.
Second.
Did you get that, Cindy? Steve made the motion and Mike seconded. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, would the clerk please call the roll? Or not the roll, you can record the vote.
Okay. Trustee Morris,
Aye.
Trustee Shear,
Aye.
Trustee Tomlinson,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Brittingham,
Aye.
Chairman Groby.
Aye, motion carries. Under item 2, since there were no items removed, we will go along to item 3, information items. If there are any items under 3 that anyone wishes to pull to discuss, if not, we'll move right on to item 4, administration. Number A, Consider approval contract number 2019-37 and award of bid to Howard Construction, Inc. in the amount of $339,220 for the Mooney Lift Station improvements, contingent upon successful negotiations of a change order to reduce the overall cost to within budgeted amount. Mr. Cook again.
Yes, ma'am, I am back. So another of our long-standing projects, we've been tackling this one for a couple of years as well. Mooney Lift Station is out off Mooney Drive on University on the west side of town, kind of across from the Masonic Lodge out there, if you're familiar with that area by Gates Avenue. It also runs a sewer for everything west of that point, which is a lot, and then north of 49th there. And so it's overloaded. It's been overloaded for a while. It's actually starting to impede development now in a way that we need to get this resolved. And we've come up with a solution to upgrade this lift station, and it's been engineered, it's been approved, everything's ready for it. The bid came in a little high, so we're going to do some work with the engineer we think we've come up with some options already to make this fit within the budget that we need to fit it in. Again, that's why we ask you to make this contingent upon that successful negotiation with Howard Construction. And that way, when we bring it back to you, we'll be spending the right amount of money. Because you'll see a change order come back probably next month that would reflect the change in money that we're able to save.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
If I
Go
may.
ahead.
Marty, I may have overlooked it, but what is the budgeted amount?
We have $241,000, about that left in the construction budget. And realize the lift station itself is roughly $220,000. That's one piece of equipment. The rest of it becomes, labor and pieces and parts to make that work. We're going to probably pull out some of the contractors' work where they were going to bury some new line and a new forced main and do some connections and some stuff like that we can do ourselves. And then we can take that out of that package, and that's the negotiation we're working on right now.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Mr. Marty Cook? If not, do we have a motion?
Move approval of contract 2019-37, contingent upon successful negotiation.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Will the secretary please record the vote?
Trustee Morris?
Aye.
Trustee Shear?
Aye.
Trustee Tomlinson?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Brittingham?
Aye.
Chairman Groby?
Aye. Motion carries. Do we have a motion for adjournment from out of the Utility Authority?
A motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Thought we were going to stay in here for a while. Do we have a motion and a second? We do. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Trustee Morris?
Aye.
Trustee Shear?
Aye.
Trustee Tomlinson?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Brittingham?
Aye.
Chairman Groby?
Aye. Motion carries. We're now adjourned out of the Utility Authority. It is 6:50. Let the record show it is 6:50 on July the 9th, and we will now enter into the Durant Airport Authority part of our program here. Call to order the Airport Authority. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Morris?
Aye.
Trustee Shear?
Here.
Trustee Tomlinson?
Here.
Vice Chairman Brittingham?
Here.
Chairman Groby?
Here. We have a quorum. We're all here. We'll start our order of business. The first thing is we have consent items. Number 3 are 3 consent items. Does anyone wish to pull a consent item out, or will you consider up the whole amount for 3 consent items? Or well, we have 1 consent item. Can we accept which is approval of the regular meeting minutes of June the 11th, 2019?
Move approval of the consent item.
Okay, we have a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions about the minutes? If not, would the clerk please record the vote?
Trustee Morris?
Aye.
Trustee Shear?
Aye.
Trustee Tomlinson?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Brittingham?
Aye.
Chairman Groby?
Aye, motion carries. There were no consent items removed. We have an information item, the airport management manager's monthly report. If there are no questions on that, we will move to item 4, which is citizens' comments on non-agenda items. And I believe that this is the gentleman. Is it Mike Covell? Would you please come forward and state your name and address, and I guess we'll put the timer on you.
Yes, I believe I have 5 minutes. I do have a prepared speech research. I've rehearsed it. It is about 5 minutes long, so you'll be happy with that. Mike Koval. I live at 2470 North Roberta Road in Durant, on the outskirts. And with that being said, good evening, council members, mayor, citizens of Durant. My name is Mike Koval, and it is an honor for me to speak to you tonight. I own Nolan Avionics. It's a rapidly growing aircraft electronics company at the Durant Airport. The purpose of my speech tonight is twofold. I want to give thanks to the city and the airport management, and secondly, I'd like to ask for some assistance. First and foremost, I want to extend my sincere gratitude. You see, last year for me was devastating. I lost my soulmate, love of my life, Laura Nolan. Around 2009, Laura took over Nolan Avionics from her father, Larry Nolan. So after Laura passed away, I worked with Larry to help get Nolan Avionics back up and running. Unfortunately, Larry, a few months later, he passes away. And to make matters worse, a few months after that, my mother passes away. So needless to say, last year for Nolan Avionics and myself was devastating. And when you are drowning and in deep despair is when the Lord reaches down to pick you up, and that is exactly what happened. I was blessed to have Magnolia Aviation and the airport management come to our aid. Thanks to Justin, Daryl, Dwayne Williams, they have helped me turn Nolan Avionics around. Moreover, the legacy of Larry and Laura is still living in the young professionals at Nolan Avionics. Connor, could you please stand up? Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Connor Doyle. He is a FAA certified avionics technician. He's 19 years old. Impressively, Mr. Doyle is the youngest general manager of any FAA certified repair station here in Durant, Oklahoma. Without a doubt, the training, thanks, Connor. Without a doubt, the training and insights that Laura and Larry bestowed upon Connor have propelled Nolan Avionics into record growth. So I simply want to give thanks to the city, Dwayne Williams, the airport manager, Justin and Daryl Williams from Magnolia Aviation, and Mr. Connor Doyle, our general manager, for helping me turn Nolan Avionics around. Clearly, the legacy of Laura and Larry Nolan lives on through Nolan Avionics. That brings me to my second point. There is a tremendous opportunity for the city and the youth of Durant. Larry and Laura, they worked decades on establishing this FAA-approved training program at Nolan Avionics. This training program has enabled Nolan Avionics to cultivate young, hardworking teenagers into FAA-certified repairmen. Nolan Avionics has done this on multiple occasions. We've taken young part-time students like Connor and Tyler before him, and have trained them into the high-tech field of aircraft electronics. Furthermore, after 18 months, we're able to certify them so they actually get an FAA license as a repairman. This is where we, the Nolan Avionics family, need some help. We are looking to offer 3 internships. We wish to offer the Larry and Laura Nolan Avionics internship to 3 young Durant students. Our dream is becoming a reality. The FAA just last month came down and approved us for expansion. We will soon be working on much larger aircraft. such as private jets. There is a record amount of business right now in avionics field. There's a 2020 mandate requiring all these planes to be upgraded with a transponder. There's over 100,000 planes right now, 6 months out, that still need to be upgraded. There's only 700 shops such as us, so you can do the math, we're booked up. I envision operating 3 large hangars with 12 full-time electronic technicians and servicing everything from small engine airplanes to large Gulfstream twin turbine jets. Just like the world-famous Spartan College of Aeronautics in Tulsa, we can make Durant, Oklahoma, the mecca for highly skilled avionics technicians. It all starts with the Larry and Laura Nolan Avionics internship. This is where I need some help. Any assistance the council can provide me, we'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That brings us to item number 5, under administration, number A, consider approval of contract number 2019-35 for $10,039.26 with the Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission to perform a flight inspection of our precision approach path indicator lights located at Durant Regional Airport, Acre Field. Mr. Cook again.
I'm back again, the last time. So as a part of our runway extension out at the airport, we are required to have what they call a PAPI light flight inspection. The OAC provides this service. It is a part of the runway extension. It will be reimbursed by the federal grant for 90% and then the state grant for another 5%. So we're only going to be out 5% of this after the reimbursement. But it is also a contract we have to make with the OAC and get signed, so when the runway extension project is over, they can immediately take on this duty and get it out of the way. So we're trying to get ahead of the game on this one. Any questions? Part of our job out there is to replace all of the lighting with LED, and so it's really going to be a phenomenal thing for our airport. We were very fortunate to get that as a part of the grant. So this will help finish the project for us.
Are there any questions for Marty?
Move approval, contract 2019-35.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, would the clerk please record the vote?
Trustee Morris?
Aye.
Trustee Shear?
Aye.
Trustee Tomlinson? Vice Chairman Brittingham?
Aye.
Chairman Groby?
Aye. Motion carries. Number 6, new business. Do we have anything?
Yes.
Madam Mayor, I actually do have just something by way of some information. Previously, we had discussed regarding the runway extension project. There was some land on the south end of the runway that the city needed and was taken by way of condemnation. And I think I previously told the authority that we had reached agreements with the landowners to purchase that, and the authority and the council had given approval to purchase that land at a price not to exceed certain amounts. In that process, it was found through the closing process and the purchase of that land that there were some title issues with the land way up the chain. Somebody had died and there wasn't a probate, and so that's not really the city's problem, but it takes away that ability for us to contract and purchase that property without going through the condemnation process, because we can't get good title to it. So we're going to proceed through the condemnation process, and then the landowners are in the process of filing a quiet title action so that they can obtain good title and they can take the money from the condemnation. I don't expect those numbers to change very much in what it costs the city to get the property, but the process has to change just a little bit, and it shouldn't delay us more than a week or so. But that's the issue. So if you hear something that we didn't purchase the property. We didn't, because of the property owner's title issues on 2 parcels. But we will get the property, and it won't cost a great deal more, if any more. But we had to go at it through the condemnation route. Okay.
Thank you, Tom. New business?
Yes. Mr. Mike Koval, I don't think got to finish, but I'd be interested, and I think maybe the authority would be interested maybe in hearing more, and I would just suggest maybe that if you haven't already, but visit with the city manager and Mr. Marty Cook, and maybe they can either bring you back or bring that information before the authority, and be interested in hearing more. At least I would.
Yes, and I'll stay later, answer any questions you may have. But it truly is a tremendous opportunity out there, and it's a proven system. We've done it before. Unfortunately, Connor's going to become a doctor. He's going to go away to medical school. So I'm actively searching for another general manager.
As long as he doesn't wire somebody up electronically, I guess. We'll be all right. That's all I have.
Thank you. Is there any other new business? If not, we're down to adjournment. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Trustee Morris?
Aye.
Trustee Shear?
Aye.
Trustee Tomlinson? Vice Chairman Brittingham?
Aye.
Chairman Groby?
Aye. Motion, we adjourned. Do we have, we got one more. I always forget that one. Okay, let the record show that it is 7:05, and we are now entering into the June 9th, 2019 session of the Durant Development Authority. Would the clerk, we call it to order, would the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Morris?
Here.
Trustee Shear?
Here.
Trustee Tomlinson? Vice Chairman Brittingham?
Here.
Chairman Groby?
Here, under the order of business, we have one item, a consent item. If no one wants to pull that item, would you please vote to accept it? Do we have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second on a consent item to consider the approval of regular meeting minutes of April the 9th, 2019. Any other discussion? Would the clerk please record the vote?
Trustee Morris?
Aye.
Trustee Shear?
Aye.
Trustee Tomlinson? Vice Chairman Brittingham?
Aye.
Chairman Groby?
Aye. We move to information item number 2, which there are none. Under item 3, new business. Is there any new business? If not, do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Trustee Morris?
Aye.
Trustee Shear?
Aye.
Trustee Tomlinson?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Brittingham?
Aye.
Chairman Groby?
Aye. Adjourned. And I must say, guys, I feel like we're leaving too early. This is the earliest I think that we've ever left. I don't want to stay.